On program.
Someone asked me in the Discord, they said, hey, would you like this show if it wasn't Star Wars? That's like his soapbox he keeps going back to. And I'm like, I don't know. It kind of reminded me of that clip that was like, if my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. You know, what, you know, you know, what the hell is, you know, it doesn't make any sense what you said. It's a different recipe. It's got nothing to do with macaroni cheese.
And it's like, it is Star Wars. I don't know how to, you know, it's Star Wars. I don't know what to say. Michael, please.
So there's a lot of shows I've made that complaint about, like the Obi-Wan series, for example, minus a few high points. Like, I don't think that show would have survived at all. Boba Fett, if it didn't have any sort of Star Wars tie-in, really wouldn't have gotten any attention. And there's a lot of sci-fi series out there that got one season and were awful. And there's a lot of sci-fi series out there that got one season and were fantastic. Look at you, Firefly. So I don't think that's necessarily the delineator of whether people watched it, whether it was good necessarily. But I don't know. I put this one higher. I think the highest example of that we have is like Andor. Because Andor, it wouldn't matter what medium that is. Andor's fantastic. It could have been a medieval drama. It could have been, you know, space. It could be underwater. Who cares? Andor's awesome.
All right.
This one,
let's do it now. Rank these shows. How does this one rank in all the shows? Because I was gonna do it later, but the Force wills it. Let's do it. Let's do it this way. Michael, you rank it just under Andor?
Oh gosh, no. Are we ranking individual, like whole series as a whole, or
yes,
or
it
seasons?
gets too hairy
because
if you don't.
Oh, because like Mando season 1 to Mando season 3 is so wild.
Yeah.
Can't break them if you never follow them.
All right. No. What are the series we're talking about? We're talking about Mando, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, Andor, and the Acolyte.
Acolyte would be a good one.
No, I'm saying that's all.
Include in there, maybe.
Missing something. We're not including cartoon series, Bad Batch, all that.
Brother, where does this one rate for you?
I want to know how many out of how many we're ranking. Come on,
Michael B.
It's middle high, 7.5 out of 10. What do you want from me?
You need to, give him time to think about it.
All right.
We'll come back with a really
At least give me a full list of what we're ranking against one another. Okay.
All of the Star Wars shows. How'd you like this one?
Live action Disney Plus series.
Sure, that's acceptable.
It ranks third for me because I think Andor was my favorite. Well, it was like the most impressive. My favorite, so like tied number 2 is The Mandalorian because season 1 and 2 is what kind of got me into all this stuff. And then this show, number 3-ish.
Excellent. Well done.
So people hated Rise of Skywalker because they're wrong.
That's for you. Taylor, it's your turn.
I think it's my number 2. Just because, I mean, Andor is obviously my number 1. Fantastic show. The reason this one is my number 2 is what I talked about a little bit last week about how this feels like the first show because it's set during a different time that I could really just sit back and enjoy as a viewer and not have all this lore and knowledge in my head that I was then thinking about and trying to fit into or have the shows fit into the lore. So I really enjoyed being able to just sit back and enjoy being exposed to new characters, new planets, new everything, and just kind of be along for the ride. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I agree with you, Taylor, 100%. For me, it is number 2. It's Andor, way up at the top in the stratosphere. And then this is second because while I understand The Mandalorian probably scratched the itch for the OT fans and, the people that grew up with that era of Star Wars, this one for me is just like a lot of the stuff that I wanted. You get a lot of Jedi, you get a lot of Force, a lot of philosophy, and the lightsaber combat was great. It was awesome. It was the most prequel-esque thing we've seen in a long time, and that's why I put it firmly in number 2, with other shows hanging around behind it in 3 and down. Michael, have you had enough time, or do you need more?
I think so. I'm still going to be a little more on the fence than you guys. Andor's at the top.
That's fine.
Mando, at least currently, is second for me, even though season 3 really weighed it down. I can't pick between Obi-Wan and Acolyte because they both have things I really love and they both have things that I really didn't love, but I think Acolyte has the potential of being number 3. I think Acolyte has the potential of being my number 2. It just depends on if it gets another season. If this is all we ever get with Acolyte, it's going to be rough for me to say it beats out even Obi-Wan, because at least Obi-Wan, I had so much nostalgia tied to it.
Fair enough.
This one had a lot of references to the books, but it didn't really do all the like book fan service stuff that I really wanted. It kind of just like nods and teases and really didn't do a whole lot. So if this ends where it is, it's going to be lower.
Universe,
yeah, but it has potential to be number 2 for me if it goes better.
For sure.
And I feel really bad, like you said, Andor's so high up there, and then the rest of these are like really crammed together because I got Ahsoka and then Boba Fett, and I didn't hate Ahsoka, and I really don't dislike Boba Fett nearly as much as other people did. I actually really enjoy a rewatch of it. It's kind of fun as long as you know what it is. It was more disappointing than it is bad as a whole, I think.
Stick around on Program Community, because we are going to do that for all of these shows. We're going to rewatch all of them, and we're going to talk about them with the benefit of hindsight, because the internet is a wild place. And very excited to see what we think now that the dust has settled. That's the way it was for Obi-Wan. Like, I mean, the highs were stratospheric and the lows were like, whoa, and then you mix in some internet discourse and some out of pocket things going on. To Andy's point, like, it made it hard to know whether or not you were defending it because the internet or hating it because the internet, like undue criticism, all that sort of stuff. It was just, so it's nice to take some time and rewatch it and get to see. All right, I want to catch up on chat. Up in Smoke says, do you think there will be a season 2? I don't know. What do you guys think? Will there be a season 2? I certainly hope so. We got teased some pretty cool stuff that we're going to get into whenever we get on the synopsis that is just flailing in the wind. Michael, yes, please.
I think even with the negative reception that is received, I think Disney would be stupid not to make a season 2 because of how much it triggered so many people without really doing anything worth triggering them. Just like they were so mad about this show that there's no way it didn't make money off of being just reviled by so many people. And yet it's not worth that. Like, it was so good. There's so many moments that are great. Sure, it has problems, but like, man, people just talked about this so much, and talking about a show is money. So I think they'd be dumb not to renew it.
I'm with you. I want to see more. I want to see honestly, well, I'm not gonna do what I said Michael did. We'll get there later. Okay. Todd, my boy, he says this panel might be more entertaining than the show itself. Thank you. We appreciate that. We're certainly trying. We are being goofy for you, my friend, and to that I say wow, what a conversation that was. I'm glad I found this. Apparently, this is just a clip from a larger show that's live every Friday night. I don't know about you, but I'm going to subscribe so I can see more videos like this one. Hey, let's both like this video, to boost it in the algorithm, and then we can ring the bell so we won't miss the next one.
Good job.